Hello and welcome to the Knit Girls. This is episode 547. My name is Laura, also known as Lola.
I am Leslie, also known as You Don't Call Me Les. Today is the 27th of September, 2021. Never stops being weird.
What?
How
time goes?
Yeah, I went to search something in Google today and it had 23 because today it's 23 years old.
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm a decade older than Google.
Here's my baby. Hi.
This is Buffy, who hates basically everyone except the people that live in this house and Laura.
She's such a good girl.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So when we record, she has to be in here because Laura's here.
I mean, that's the rule, yo.
She'll lay down in a minute. So yeah, it's been a busy week.
Yes, it has. I look like a hot mess because I am a hot mess. I had work, then I took a COVID test, which was negative. And then I had volleyball duty, which is why I'm still wearing my mask. And now I'm here. And eventually I'll go see my puppy.
Yeah. And she won't get to sleep because Pearl will be like, I missed you.
Let's do stuff.
Yeah. I need to go out and chase a bunch of possums for a long time.
Yeah. Well, welcome to my life. So it's just been busy in general. But I've gotten a decent amount of crafting in this week, I feel like.
Go for it.
Awesome. So I am still working on my sweater. It is out of hand spun that I spun out of 8 ounces of Hello Yarn. And
many of our kind viewers have offered to take it off their hands.
So this is what it looks like so far. This is the Beachcomb by TheKnitGirlls. She's got some great new sweater patterns coming out too. But I'm like 3 inches in. So last time y'all saw this, I was still working on that herringbone at the bottom. And eventually there is an I-cord that gets picked up and added there. And it's so funny, I actually went down a needle size, but because the herringbone is so tight, it like looks like I went up a bazillion needle sizes. But yeah, so now I'm just knitting around and around and around for 11 inches total. And then I will separate. So that is the first thing on my needles, and that is living in a Harkari handmade bag, which everything else has gotten shoved into this week too. And so it's a great big bag. It's perfect size for carrying a lot of stuff. And this is the yarn, and I'm knitting this on size 6s right now. Before, for the herringbone, I was knitting it on size 7s. So that is the first thing on my needles. The second thing on my needles is so teeny tiny and ridiculous. I started Mystery Gnome and there's so much fiber on this bag. This is a bag from Whimsy Stitches.
It's Imagine Landscapes. Is that who does the gnomes?
Yeah. So Imagine Landscapes. Sarah does the gnomes. And so I cast on Mystery Gnome number 7, which is going on right now. 7? Yeah. All work, gnome play. This is one of several gnomes that I've knit from her. And there are 3 colors in this. It's all knit on fingering weight. So these are my 3 colors. One can be variegated. So this is color 1 to Kanabi. And then one is your gnome skin color. So I just had some undyed knit picks.
So yours is a Scandinavian gnome.
Yes. Yeah. It's whatever I could find that was a solid, because I don't have a ton of solids.
It's a mystery because you don't know what the finished gnome's going to look like.
So I got through clue 1. And oh, there's stitch markers in the bottom of this bag. There's little Starbucks.
I find stitch markers everywhere, except when I need them, and then they're nowhere.
So cute. I think someone gave that to me at SSK. So I did the first clue, which I think is the gnome's nose. It's this little white bit. And then there's also little I-cords. There's 3 little I-cords that go with it.
Right now it just looks like a hot mess.
Yeah, well, Yeah, like look at that one. It's the smallest thing ever.
Yeah.
So 3 different size I cords and this little bit here, and now I am doing a welted part. One thing that I love about Sarah's patterns is they do use some different techniques. Like there's a different decrease in the little ball part, and then this part has a welt in it. So I'm knitting these on size 0s using some carbons double points and just scooching right along. So I'm on clue 2. I think clue 5 comes out tomorrow or something. So
How many are there altogether?
that's a good question. I cannot remember. Maybe 7 or 8. So I am a bit far behind, but I'll catch up.
It's a pretty quick thing to knit a clue.
The clue 1 took me around half an hour, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am a little concerned that this variegated is too close to my contrast color 3, but I think it'll be alright. And I have no idea what the other yarns are because Amy Florence sent them to me in a random advent package one year. In the middle of these are Kinder Eggs.
Just the toys,
Just
not the
the
chocolate.
toys. So I'm super stoked about that. It's like an extra gnome project. Extra special surprise.
What if you don't get to the...
Oh, I'm getting to them.
What if you don't use enough yarn to get to them?
Oh, I'll still get to them. And then I have been knitting on a sock. This is Knit Picks yarn Felice in the spooky colorway. It is Deep Stash. I think I've had it around 5 years. So I wish they put the dates on their labels. I don't think they do though.
Most people don't.
Yeah. It'd be so nice if they did though. But I could see how old my stash was. So I'm knitting this on size 0s. I'm just knitting a toe-up sock and going round and round and round. I got some knitting done on this at the volleyball game tonight. I got some knitting done on this at a football game Leslie and I went to. And set up in the stands away from everyone masked. So on Friday night, yeah. So decent progress on that. Almost 1 full stripe sequence. So that's pretty cool. I feel like I've done quite a bit this week when it comes to knitting.
Had a busy week. You've had after school stuff and...
Yeah, but still, like, I still feel like I did okay.
It's kind of hard to tell because the sweater, it only grew, what, an inch and a half, 2 inches, but it's a lot of stitches.
Yeah, it is.
So, and it's very thin fingering weight yarn, so...
If I can get a couple inches done on that a week, I would be very happy. But we'll see.
No doubt you'll put some unrealistic, insane goals
Yes,
yourself.
I love unrealistic, insane goals. They're my favorite.
Well, I have some stuff too. I worked some on my Camino Bubbles, which still basically looks like nothing. I mean, it's
cute.
It's cool. You know, I enjoy knitting it, but it does get boring after a while. So,
are you done with the first skein yet?
I'm very close to being done. I have this much left.
Oh.
So I need to wind the second one. I keep putting off doing that just because I'm lazy. And my winder's up here, and I spend most of my time downstairs.
Yeah,
so.
you should do it before we go downstairs after this.
So that's the first thing that I'm working on. The second thing is I started a new cross stitch.
Ooh.
This is another one that I'm working on for my coworkers for a holiday gift. So right now I'm just working on the text of it, and this one is a simple, relatively simple one. I printed it huge because even though I have good vision, it gets hard to see these tiny
I like
squares.
how you did the grid on that too. That's super cool.
So it's sometimes the best thing about this job is that the chair spins. And then it's got a simple border around the edge.
Oh my goodness.
She
scared herself.
She was
Poor Buffy.
sitting up against the door and she sneezed and it made her hit the door and it scared her.
Oh, poor baby. Come here, Buff.
But she's ferocious. She's a pit bull.
Come here.
So
I know. Come see me.
go around the other way.
Come here.
Okay.
Come up here.
So yeah,
so
so
scary.
in order to
This
make
is
it
so scary.
easier to figure out where my letters and everything are, I grid out my cross stitch fabric into 10 by 10 sections, and then I just label each section like A, B, C, D, E, you know, and then I put numbers on the other side so I can say, okay, for D5, I need to start in this square. And then I do the same thing on the paper pattern. So you can see I've got like, this is B10 and C10 and all that. So that way, because I don't typically go in order, like start at the top left corner and then go in order. I start in the center and then just sort of slowly work my way outwards.
Okay.
So because of that, I rarely am having one thing follow the next thing logically. So I have to grid it out or I'll never know where I am. And still, I grid it out and still sometimes have to rip it. Rip it back. So
happens to the best of us.
So that's what I'm actively working on, but I did finish some stuff.
Ooh, what'd you finish?
Not a ton, but some stuff.
Did you finish a tiny pumpkin?
I did not. I finished this cross stitch.
Oh, look at that.
So I was close to being done last week, but I still had a bunch of these little color things to do. So there are two
cute.
types of people, avoid both.
Your back looks really nice too.
Yeah, it's relatively neat. And I mean, nobody will see it, but it makes me, especially with the dark colors, you don't want your strands going between the spaces in between the words mainly, because you'll be able to see it.
Hey, paw eater. Hey, you. What are you doing back there?
These are for you. These are those little.
Yes, thank you. I love these double-ended stitch holders.
Little clover plastic.
Leslie found them on clearance for me.
Yeah.
So now I have 4 more. So now I have 6 total.
Yeah, I think they were like $3 or $4 a piece. So also I pulled out some sashiko. This is mostly what I worked on at the football game when I was with Laura. Because it was simple. I really just needed this and thread, and that
so I
was it.
posted your picture to the TheKnitGirlls Instagram, and people had questions.
Like,
where did you get your the cloth background from?
It'll be linked in the show notes.
Where did you get the thread from?
It was part of the kit that came with the.
Oh, so it was a full kit?
Yeah.
There you go.
Let
me see if there's any other questions.
So our show notes are on our website, which is TheKnitGirlls with 3Ls.com. And each episode we put the stuff that we talk about there. So this is what it looks like. I finished all the stitching for the little flowers and then around the edging as well. So right now I'm just sort of making a bunch and accumulating them until I have about a dozen, and then I think I might do a quilt out of them.
Oh, that was the other question. What are you going to do with the finished piece?
Yeah, I think I might do a quilt out of them. Typically, or not typically, but traditionally, they've been, you sew the 2 halves together and they become like a tea towel or something. But in my house, that won't work because my husband will grab any available absorbent thing and clean up anything from grease to chemicals to
dog vomit.
Yeah, like there's no
Buffy, stop eating
he doesn't
your
follow
paws.
rules unless I get really mean about them.
Come here.
So yeah, so that is done.
She's like, Laura, I have no time for you. I'm very busy eating my paws.
Yeah, she gets allergy shots, and I've started her on those Zesty Paws treats that are supposed to that come in the orange container. They're supposed to help with allergies, and it's just this time of year. It just gets really bad for her. And the other thing that I cast on and
look at
finished,
that.
because I was sort of feeling meh about my other knitting, I wanted to do something else. So I had these skeins from the Lemonade shop. It was her bulky, which is 106 yards per 100 grams. And this is linked in the show notes as well. And the 2 colorways are Dumpster Fire and Shitstorm. So this is what one side of it looks like. This is the 2-color brioche cowl, and it's the Lush cowl. Again, it'll be linked in the show notes. It's a free pattern. And really the only thing I used it for was the cast on number. Everything else I've knit enough brioche that I didn't need to look at the pattern every row. But it was relatively simple. It was still like a 2-page pattern. It was.
So one side has the super colorful.
Right, and then one side is more of the dark with the pops of color.
Nice.
So.
I like it.
Yeah, it's nice. I have no idea it'll go to somebody.
You use it for walking the dogs.
I don't walk the dogs.
Oh.
I have a fence, and I just let them out.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, I like it. It makes me happy. I like that the colors are snarky.
The colorway names.
That's definitely a selling point. But yeah, it makes me happy. It's super wash, so it can go to, my sister or somebody who,
Sadie might like that. We need to send a package to Sadie too.
Yeah, that's true. I need to sew up a baby thing for her first.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the stuff that I finished this week. I finished 3 things, so I was pretty happy with that. I have no spinning, but you have some spinning.
Well, I've been working on the same thing, and I didn't bother bringing it with me.
Okay.
I'm still working on a patchwork kit from Hello Yarn that I divided into little chunks. I said I would bring the fiber, and then I forgot. But hopefully this next week I'll have at least the second bobbin done, which is 8 ounces.
It's a lot
total,
for as thin as you're spinning it.
Yeah, it's going to be a 2-ply that will eventually be a fingering weight, kind of like what I'm knitting with now. And it will be knit into the Flex Light pattern by Tin Can Knits.
Which is a simple, pullover pattern.
Yep.
And they just put out new videos about color work.
They did. I saw that today. They also put out some new patterns recently that I really liked. So, Tin Can Knits, they're pretty awesome folks. We like them a lot. So yeah, that spinning is happening just very slowly. I'm also spinning on some Kim Dye's yarn on one of the sparrows.
Yeah.
So, well, it's the only sparrow.
I was gonna say one of the dateless wheels.
One of the dateless wheels is sparrow. So that's also going quite slow because I'm spinning it quite thin. That's a Falkland. And I'm almost done with the first bobbin on that. I could have finished it yesterday, but then I got distracted by gnomes. So, how you do. But yeah, so that's it for me for spinning. What have you been reading?
I've been hopping between several things this past week. So, I've been reading several cosmic horror style Lovecraftian kind of novels. I finished the second book in The Abyss Above Us, which was linked last week, and it was good. I didn't particularly like the very last paragraph of the book, but aside from that, it was pretty good.
Okay.
And I'm currently reading another, it was on a reading list along with several of the other cosmic horrors that I've liked, and I like it so far. It's called The Fisherman, and it's by John Langan, and it basically talks about old elder powers and things that were here before people and all that. So it's interesting. It's something different. And as far as what I've listened to this week, I re-listened to Johannes Cabal, Necromancer by Jonathan Howard, because a new book in the series came out recently, and I think it was like the 4th or 5th in the series. And I had listened to Necromancer before, and I don't know, I didn't love it, and I still don't love it. It's told from the point of view, so it's a guy who makes a deal with Satan to learn the skills of necromancy. In exchange, he trades his soul, but then he wants his soul back, and so the devil is like, you need to go get me 100 souls. It's like he sets an unrealistic goal. There's a lot of British snark. It's definitely sort of a humorous take on it. It's
so kind of like the Terry Pratchett Neil Gaiman book.
Yes, kind of.
Okay.
But I felt like every third joke I missed. I felt like I needed a degree in British history to understand a lot of it. So maybe it's just me being overly sensitive about it, but it was okay. But I'm not gonna buy the rest of the books.
Surprised that you haven't read the new T.J. Klune.
I haven't yet. It's on my list. But with authors that I really, really love, like T.J. Klune and Alona Andrews, I tend to save their new stuff until I'm at a point where I feel like I need a pick-me-up.
We could listen to that on our way to if you got the audiobook.
the way I'm going through audiobook credits, it's not like anybody will even notice. um, so I listened to that again. I'm currently listening to The Wizards Butler, which is
sounds familiar.
Yeah, I've read it before. It's about this old man who's got this, fancy house in some city. It never says what city, and he needs a butler, and so he hires this, ex-military guy who doesn't really believe in magic, and sort of comes to trust the old man over the course of time. It's a difficult one to categorize. It's not really paranormal. It's kind of fantasy-ish, but just barely. It's a good book. There's no romantic element or anything to it. And then I'm also listening to What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat by Aubrey Gordon. She's the same person who wrote Your Fat Friend. And it's really interesting. This one is more about being fat, especially in America, and from her point of view as a queer fat woman, and just sort of the societal implications of being fat that you don't necessarily think about unless you are fat and you've had that experience. So it's interesting. It's
okay.
It's not one that you can really binge.
Yeah.
Because
there's a lot of thought.
There is a lot of thought, and it can be depressing. You might throw yourself off a bridge if you listen to all 7 hours of it straight. But I mean, it's just because it's depressing doesn't mean it isn't
doesn't have value.
Important.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's what I'm listening to and reading.
I am reading a new middle grade book. It's kind of like Coraline meets 1001 Tales.
Mm-hmm.
So it is about a boy who gets lured into a witch's apartment that he cannot escape. And in order to keep her from turning him into a statue, every night he has to tell her a story that he makes up. And he has a very vivid imagination, but it's also very horror driven.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the Coraline elements come in. I'm around halfway through. It's a middle grade, and I'm enjoying it so far. It's called Night Books by J.A. White, who's written a bunch of other books. It's called the Thickery series, his other series. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far.
Cool. It sounds interesting.
It's interesting, and the stories that the kid is telling are also included, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
The font changes and stuff. I'm enjoying that aspect as well. I think it's going to be a good one to recommend to my middle grade readers who like Coraline or some horror elements like the Goosebumps series, but aren't ready for YA horror like Clown in the Cornfield or White Smoke. So
never read either of those.
Oh, good horror. So yeah. Yep. So that's what I'm reading. I love this time of year for reading middle grade horror books. It's my fave. So yeah. Speaking of horror and things of that nature, we do have the Halloween Craft All the Things going on. It is hosted on Discord, Ravelry, and Instagram. The hashtag for Instagram is the TKG, or it's just TKG Halloween Cats with 2 T's 21. And yeah, there's been some really cool things. Emily knit her first sweater for that last year, my friend Emily, and she's knit 9 sweaters since, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So
she doesn't do anything by halves.
Super cool. And she spins a lot too. She's a super cool human being. That's Knitwit 8. But yeah. That's about it for me. Thank you everyone who donated to my school. One of my kids. So I recorded this week. I'm starting to record my lessons, that way if I get interrupted by something else, I can just the kids can still watch me, and they're short lessons. They're 6-minute lessons. Right now we're doing how to preview a book when it's paperback, hardcover with a jacket. And so they're little 6-minute lessons. And when I recorded them, I wore makeup. And so one of my little sixth graders the other day said, Miss Linneman, you look so much prettier on that big screen TV than you do in real life. And I said, well, thank you. They just crack me up.
No filter.
Nope. That was like the other day when I have a Babysitter's Club shirt that says, I put this on Instagram. I'm a little bit Christy with a dash of, I'm mostly Christy with a dash of Claudia or something like that. And Christy's like the kind of like bossy, assertive head of the Babysitter's Club, and Claudia's the more artsy one. So it definitely fits me. And one of my seventh graders looked at it, and she looked at me, and she's like, A, I love those books, but B, your shirt is very true. You are bossy. I was like, that. I mean, all I can do is laugh at that because it's so true. They're very funny. We also had to have a discussion. The more time I spend fixing bookshelves that rabid squirrels look like they've nested in, the less time that I have to get new books out.
Yeah.
And while we were having that conversation, and I'm doing that conversation with everyone, one of the seventh graders said, those sixth graders, they ruin everything. Made me laugh.
Oh, irony.
I was like, that was you a year ago. Okay. Acting like you're all grown. Because you're 12 now.
I still
So
sometimes
funny.
when stuff happens, I'm like looking around for the grown up to take care of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. I also got a cardboard cutout of the Bride of Frankenstein to put out in front of my checkout desk when I go to lunch. I take a 15-minute lunch, and she sits there. Did I show you the picture of that?
Mm-mm.
She sits there and has like, Miss Linneman has gone to lunch. She'll return it, and I put a post-it note with the time.
Mm.
So I'm setting boundaries because boundaries are important. So,
I mean, only if you value your mental health.
well, I did get interrupted twice even with that today because we had some kids withdrawing. So,
No.
things still happen. But yeah, I'm trying to put those boundaries in place. I'm trying to sit at my desk and eat lunch versus walking around, talking to people or helping people, and trying to shove like goldfish crackers in my mouth at the same time. Which doesn't work well with a mask.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it is harder to eat on the run when you're wearing, you're trying to protect other people and
Yeah,
wear your mask.
absolutely. But yeah, that's about it for me and my silliness.
Good for me. I don't really have anything.
Thank you everyone who sent books to my library. You'll get a thank you from me via Amazon if you
Included
said
the
that you
little
wanted,
thing.
one. I don't know when that will happen, but it will happen. I was all caught up like last week. No, 2 weeks ago. It'll happen. I save all those. So, and the kids really appreciate it. I have one child who came in this afternoon when a couple boxes arrived, and he was so happy.
So he already put his name on something?
Yes. Well, an Animal Crossing manga came, and he was super stoked about that because I was super stoked about that. So we were discussing Animal Crossing, and he really, really likes cookbooks, and I've had several cookbooks donated recently too.
Oh.
So, he was all around between the manga and the cookbooks. He was super happy. But it's fun. The kids are what keeps me in it. It's certainly not anything else. But yeah.
Well, I think that's all for this week then. It's been a little bit of a short one, but I mean, that's the way life goes sometimes. So
Well, we both had lots of things to show.
yeah. If they were just we didn't drag it out, I guess, this week. Some weeks
Like
were
we
better at
normally
that.
do.
I mean, it probably would have been a longer one if Laura wasn't at the end of like a 13-hour day.
That is true. And losing my voice.
Yeah.
But
But you will see us again in a week.
yep.
And until then, we hope that you guys have a nice one.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.